My guest today built the largest lifestyle hospitality empire on the planet. Over 100 hotels, 150 restaurants, the brands that define modern luxury. The SLS Beverly Hills was voted the #1 hotel in the world. He developed Hyde, Katsuya, and sold it to Accor in 2020 for nearly $1 billion. Today he's back, reimagining luxury through longevity with Tony Robbins, partnering with Mark Anthony on Miami's most anticipated tower, and rewriting what it means to live well at the highest level. This is Sam Nazarian. Sam, welcome to The Long Game. Great to have you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. Sam, so you are an icon in the hospitality real estate industry. You've really done so much. And it all started with one nightclub in Beverly Hills. But you're also an immigrant. Your family moved here. They weren't originally here. We were talking about this before the show. How did your family come here? What was that initial story like?
Well, I think like many Iranians in 1979, which we're living now, the revolution happened in Iran, and a lot of people were forced to flee, leave everything. Mm-hmm. And our family was no different. There was kind of that huge wave of immigration that happened. And we're Jewish and Iranian, so a lot of Iranian Jews kind of migrated to two places, New York and LA. Mm-hmm. So we, my dad and my uncle, they were very close, obviously, and business partners. So we brought our families and relocated. And for many people, they thought it was a short-term thing. Mm-hmm. It happened once before in the 50s, mm-hmm. where the prime minister was kind of in Iran, had an issue with the Shah, and the CIA put the Shah back in. Mm-hmm. So they thought it was kind of that type of vibe, and obviously 47 years later, we're living with it now.
Right. And what was your first venture? How did you come up with the concept? What made you go into real estate, nightlife, and pick somewhere in LA to really launch something?
We're not a hospitality or real estate family. Mm-hmm. As I told you, the big pop that my family experienced in the mid 80s was being two of the biggest shareholders of Qualcomm. Mm. So when Qualcomm kind of went public, the kind of dynamics in our family changed in the sense of just net worth.
Yeah.
But the day-to-day operational aspects of having a manufacturing company and then having billions of dollars worth of Qualcomm stock. But my dad was I think very, very forward-thinking, saying we need to diversify into real estate. And my older brother David was doing that and leading that for us, and I was about 20 years old. And a lot of the relationships that my father and my brother would have would be seeding some private equity groups that had focused in real estate just to see deal flow, but also understand underwriting and kind of how to value. We didn't have a big real estate infrastructure. We had no real estate infrastructure, and we were ambitious to build it, which we did.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how my earliest kind of components around the real estate business, mainly multifamily. And I was lucky enough, because of some of the investments my dad made, to kind of be at the foundation of a guy named Dean Adler in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. He's this iconic real estate investor, Lubert Adler.
Dean, yeah.
And Dean is like the mad scientist.
Yeah.
And at that time, having access for a 22-year-old kid to someone like him and seeing apartment deals in Southern California,
yep.
and just understanding his philosophy and strategy was like a master class. It was one of the most unbelievably beneficial things in my career, especially at that age.
What kind of deals were you looking at back then?
It was just at that time. It was like in the mid to late '90s, so post SNL.
Yeah.
Class B, Class C apartments, just buying in bulk, finding good operating partners. Nothing sexy. Actually,
and you were learning.
I was learning, and I was responsible for the family's allocation into those deals.
Yeah.
And not sexy at all, but he was kind of our main pipeline at that time. And he introduced me to a guy that kind of came from Chicago to LA, and a guy named Brad Corzin, a guy named Jeff Elo. These are guys that became big, iconic in hospitality and still are. And they approached us on buying a couple boutique hotels. And this is the era of Schrager. Mm-hmm. This is the era of Andre Balaz. This is the era of the beginnings of W and Barry Sternlicht. So that's lifestyle.
Mondrian, Delano.
Yeah, the word lifestyle. The word lifestyle didn't exist, right? It was boutique hotels. So Brad, my partner at that time, he bought a couple boutique hotels. One of them was the Viceroy in Santa Monica. So we invested in that, and that's really kind of when I started to understand the operational side of hospitality, and really I fell in love with the business through that process.
Right. So you discovered hospitality through the Viceroy.
Yeah.
When did you decide to open up your first venue?
So about 2002, I realized that by being an investor, kind of there were some fundamental things I would do different. You know, as a 25, 26-year-old kid. And I realized, again, this is all instinctual because I had no reason to, I didn't grow up with these ideas.
Right.
Nobody was teaching me these ideas. But instinctually, I really looked
Clearly, you're a natural. Like, for what you've built and over the time, you're a natural.
I don't know if I'm a natural, but,
You've learned
but
a
I had a couple things right.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of things wrong, but I had a couple things right, which was building a brand first. You know, a lot of the guys back then, even Schrager was not building a brand. He was building a Schrager hotel. Right? Every hotels were named differently. He was on the PropCo, OpCo side.
Yeah.
He outsourced a lot of his, F&B to guys like Jeffrey Chodorow and things like that, and Randy Gerber and those guys. What I quickly realized is, if I want to build a hotel company of the future, that was my ambition. I had to understand the verticals that we as the Viceroy or hotels I was investing in were outsourcing. And that was a big fundamental, I think, foundation of what we were talking about, because hotel companies don't understand F&B. And F&B companies are ambitious to be hotel guys, but they're not.
They're loss leaders oftentimes, right?
Yeah, and or they just never get there.
Yeah.
You look at I think subsequently you see guys like Cipriani and you see guys like Nobu getting into the hospitality world, which is very smart, and getting a hotel multiple evaluation. So that's how I started. So when people say, I had a lot of exposure in hospitality before I started SBE, and the idea of SBE was building a hotel vertical eventually, a brand. A Four Seasons, not your father's Four Seasons. That was the working title for a long time.
Yeah.
But also understanding food and beverage. And that's how SBE started in December 2002 when I opened my first nightclub on Sunset.
And what does SBE stand for?
At this page, it really, I think people who know SBE know me. But SBE was just it was a holding company. It is a holding company that I own. But, it was my nickname growing up. So Sammy Boy was my nickname. And I played, high school basketball and a little bit of college. And so my coaches just call me Sammy Boy. So that's kind of how it turned into Sammy Boy, then shrunk to SBE, Sammy Boy Entertainment. Yeah.
Let's talk about SLS. What was creating that, launching it, growing it? Over time, you sold $4 billion of real estate with that brand. When you first started, was that your vision, or was it just to recreate or create something that was innovative, new in the industry? And how did you think about creating SLS?
Well, I thought about creating SLS for me. And, at 26, 27, I wanted to create a brand that was there's this massive white space at that time. We were spending a lot of time with Starwood at that time, because Starwood was really the best hotel company, I think, ever. And Barry had just left, and, Starwood had, the St. Regis brand, and they had the W brand, and then kind of the Sheratons and Westons and things like that. And we kind of looked at it as this white space. It's about an $800 rate in New York between the St. Regis and the highest end W. So that's kind of where we wanted to position the brand. What I did is, same thing I'm doing now, is I was lucky enough to surround myself with some GOATs at that time. So the number one, Philippe Starck.
Yeah.
It took me 2 years to get this guy on the phone. He was Ian Schrager's guy, obviously. He was the father of boutique hotels. And I got him to commit to work with me. Yeah. Which was that was a game changer for me. Not just because he was a designer, but literally the guys, he was the leader of thinking of how to integrate design and food and beverage, and nobody better in the world. And I was ambitious enough to guarantee him, I got him to sign a $15-year North American contract with me, without even an asset. I didn't have a hotel.
Wow.
And
what was the pitch like? Where were the meetings? Where were these deals happening?
Well, I convinced him to come to LA.
Okay.
And he did not want to come to LA. LA was, globally was never recognized as a serious city in hospitality, design, real estate. So I tell people I'm starting all this stuff in LA. They look away, roll their eyes, and London, New York, even Vegas was getting a lot more credibility, which was really the opportunity, by the way, for me. When I started. So I already started the nightclubs and restaurants, and the nightclubs I started instantly became just lightning in a bottle. So, all of a sudden you're 26, you're 27, you got 4 of the best nightclubs in LA within 1 year. Yeah. And I just did a deal with this amazing chef, Katsuya Uechi, who's kind of like a Nobu level guy, started kind of the same way in LA. And obviously, the credibility, a little of the background of the family. So Philippe was intrigued, and I said, Philippe, I want to, and he just left working 20 years with Ian, who Ian was like a deal junkie, And I said, I want to build a brand.
Yeah.
And I was very clear about that. And I want to build this next iteration of what you can find in a luxury hotel and what you can find in a boutique hotel. And, I wanted style, luxury, and service.
SLS.
SLS. And I named that. I mean, I've pretty much named all my brands, but that one was a very specific. There was a lot of constituency. So that's kind of how. And then I used his kind of vision of seeing what everyone else in the world is doing as far as design, as far as real estate. And we spent 2 years building the brand before finding the first property. And why that was important to me was, sometimes you especially with how famous hotels become a brand. They just name hotels like Viceroy.
Right.
Viceroy as an example. Viceroy was intended to be a standalone hotel in Santa Monica. It was never intended to be a brand.
Okay.
And ultimately it became a brand through its success. But I said I want to create all the brand constituencies up front. Then I want to go find a hotel that it fits, which is what we did. In Beverly Hills, it was an old Meridian hotel on La Cienega. So there was a lot of that. In the meantime, I was funding all this because all my restaurants and clubs were just doing exceptionally well. And my credibility at that time was I wanted to build a hotel that had the services of a luxury hotel, but had a point of view and an experience of a culinary, kind of this culinary epicenter. And the next great, goat that I found at that time, he wasn't a goat, but he became a goat, was a guy named Jose Andres. So I found Jose in 2004, 2005 in Washington. He had 3 restaurants. He won a regional James Beard, which is good, but not like.
Yeah.
And he had an ambition as big as me.
Yeah.
Brought him in, said, this is going to be the restaurant. It's called The Bazaar. This is the design Philippe and I came up with. Do you want to partner with us at the brand level? And he said yes. So that was another component. And so we started building these foundational partners that were really ambitious. Some of them had the legacy of Philippe, but he still had a chip on his shoulder. To build something luxury because he was known for these boutique hotels.
That was a great experience, by the way, in Beverly Hills, the Bazaar, Jose.
Oh yeah, I mean it was the space, the way Philippe designed it. I had a lot. I master planned a lot, all my properties, but Philippe really brought it to life. Jose just was the content of the channel. I mean, he was this larger than life.
So this is early 2000s, pre-social media. Was it word of mouth? How did you guys create this buzz? Because it went on. SLS Beverly Hills went on to be voted the number one hotel in the world, the number one hotel in the U.S. and LA, of course. Obviously, if you're number one, what was that like? That's
it was interesting. We opened it January 2009. So I bought it, I built it. We had a development company. We did full turnkey.
January 2009.
Yeah.
Okay.
In January 2009. So obviously we started designing it in 2000. I bought the hotel in 2006, and so design, development, construction. And it was our first hotel, soup to nuts as far as repositioning. So January 2009 was not a great time to open a hotel.
No.
Right in the beginning of the global, the post-Lehman. But the Bazaar was just, I mean, I'd never seen something like that, especially in LA, but just globally, I think, it was 14,000 square feet, 400 seats. It was like this playground of culinary. And we had people lining up. I'm used to people lining up outside our clubs.
Yeah.
We had people 5 o'clock lining up outside the restaurant just to get in. I mean, we had like 400 people on a Tuesday in the Porte Cochere lining up just to get in every night.
Yeah.
This wasn't like a couple months you're open. And we had like guys, at the front with and we didn't want to, I didn't want to make it a nightclub. That was the whole point. I wanted to make it, my philosophy is always put restaurants, things that are timeless in your hotels. And if you want to become exclusive and with a rope, put it outside the hotel. Because inevitably, the trendiness is going to kick in and things will go through a cycle. And, if you kind of disengage from the kind of community of the culinarians, and I really wanted the SLS to have a culinary footprint, which it did with Jose. And so that F&B really, when you talk about awareness, CNN, Time Magazine, Wall Street Journal Restaurant of the Future, only 4-star that LA Times has ever given.
Wow.
And obviously we had our own marketing capacity and, the Hills and this and Entourage and those things that we controlled where we could push the content and the world to see. So we used, we didn't have social media, but we had
You were one of the original pioneers of reality TV.
Yeah, yeah.
we were talking about this. I remember seeing you on The Entourage. Like, The Entourage was the best show ever. Like, I've watched every season, 20 times. And you really were LA. You were running LA. You had all of the celebrities, anyone who was important wanting to be at your venues.
Yeah.
And you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
What was it like managing so many people and going from, investing and buying, boring apartments, as you mentioned, to this stardom and really kind of a rocket ship in the industry? It seemed like it was going really fast.
Yeah, it grew very fast. I mean, we went from, by the time I was 30, we had 65 properties. And I was the only investor. So, to me, I always say, when I speak about that time, and we opened Hyde Sunset, which was like this transformative little lounge on Sunset, where it was TMZ started outside of our doors. I mean, it was 7 nights a week that's when celebrities would go out.
Yeah.
7 nights a week, tier 1 celebrities. And it was this whole thing, like cameras outside, who doesn't get into Hyde? It was like people were so stressed. Celebrities, CEOs.
Do you have any crazy stories of people who were upset they couldn't come in?
And we used to get CEOs of like all the big studios used to call and say, listen, my boss is coming. Just let us know if he's not going to get in. But he has to go because all his clients are there.
Right.
I manipulated, I wouldn't say manipulated, but I really used that credibility because my goal wasn't being running the city of LA.
Right.
My goal was my ambition was much bigger. Was building the hotel company of the future.
Right.
And I knew that this credibility could really, give, from my perspective, the ability of other third-party owners, ultimately, which was my goal to manage assets. Really it was undeniable, right? And personally, for me, listen, I mean, you go through. What grounded me was my family. What grounded me was not doing something too stupid at that time. I had an ambition. Of treating my employees very fair and really great. I had some great people that started with me. I was lucky enough. LA was it was an untapped market, right? It was easy to do business in LA. LA was in San Francisco.
Right.
We'd always say that, the unions are up there, we're operating here. We were going in communities like Hollywood where it hadn't seen a development. We did a branded residential, we did our Katsuya brand, then we did 5 nightclubs, and all of a sudden we controlled that sub-market. Because LA's because you were raised there, or Southern California, it's a combination of communities.
Yeah.
So, we had like Gladstones for fish on the beach. Then we had multiple things in Brentwood. We had something on Montana. Then you go into, Beverly Hills was really not hot then like it is now. Then you go into West Hollywood. We had like 7 places. We had a brand called The Abbey, which we owned the largest gay bar in the state of California. And we were like just growing that business. And that was a great demographic and a great product. And then obviously SLS.
What did your team look like at this point?
I had teams specifically dedicated to food and beverage. I had hotel teams.
Yeah.
I had a president of hotels. I had a development company, so I had guys running that business. And then we had the synergies of kind of shared services, finance, accounting, HR, and all those components, general counsels, things like that. But, to me, I joke with some of my F&B peers today, lifestyle guys, there was no ambiguity in our goal in our shop that SLS was the mothership.
Right.
And that's what we focused on. And ultimately, I mean, in life, you are what you focus on.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So it's like that old expression Tony Robbins always says: if you want to take the island, burn the ships.
Yeah.
So we burned the ships. It wasn't like we're going to sit here and just pat ourselves on the shoulder for being, get all the press and everything, all the notoriety. It was the uncertainty and the self-consciousness. Can I be a hotel guy?
Yeah.
So that drove me every morning
that
to
challenge.
get up. Yeah, that challenge.
The immigrant mentality of
being. I mean, we had an immigrant mentality when, all of a sudden we couldn't get, when I was younger, they wouldn't let us in any nightclubs, right?
Yeah.
Just because you're Persian, And then you are the guy.
Yeah.
And then you're undeniably the guy.
Yeah.
And then you're okay being that guy because you're realizing you're using that as an opportunity to build a global platform. And that's really what we did.
From Beverly Hills, what were the next steps? What was next? How did you map it out, and what was the growth like?
So the next step was I bought in 2004 the Ritz Plaza Hotel here in Miami Beach with a partner. We were the lead. We were like 85% equity. He was 15%, but he was the developer. And when we bought, the Miami market just went crazy, like in a positive way. That year right before the recession.
Yeah.
And so, but the problem is you couldn't get what we wanted entitled by the Historical Preservation Board, because the Delano was funding the opposition, and they didn't want us to open. So that was the next one. Then we bought the Sahara Casino in Las Vegas in 2006.
Yeah.
It was a $400 million acquisition to convert that to an SLS. So that was the youngest casino owner in the history of Vegas on the Strip.
Yeah.
That took a lot of energy. It was a big 1,600 room property.
What was that deal like? How did they source that? How did you find it? How did you put that deal together?
It came across our desk 3 times, and 3 times I passed on.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's before SLS was even open. So imagine, I raised $400 million of private equity money to convert the Sahara into a brand that still hadn't been open.
This is incredible.
We didn't have any hotel operating.
Right.
And that's how that deal came, and we bought it, we closed on it, and ran it for 2012. We shut it down. I mean, the global recession happened in the middle of all this, and that's really what, I think was one of the best things that happened to me personally, because it just, when things are just all going great, and then something happens, you fortify your operational, whatever your operation is. It really fortified me. Then I really had to start understanding the core business, because everything we opened was, people say that, but literally everything we opened was successful.
Right.
From a restaurant and club perspective. So all of a sudden you're like, well, I got debt, I got, luckily nothing recourse, so I was able to kind of learn how to negotiate with lenders, CMBS, this. That was just 2 years of my life. Didn't give any properties back. Every property we saw through, even SLS Vegas, the Sahara, we raised, I think, $500 million of EB5 money for that. The largest EB5 raise.
$500 million of EB5.
$430 million plus. When nobody even knew what EB5 was. I was going to mainland China.
You were ahead of your time.
I was going, but we had no choice. There was no construction. There was no construction financing.
Steve Ross must have called you and be like, Sam, how do you raise money for Hudson Yards?
Actually, Jeff Blau did call me once, and he goes, "How the hell did you raise so much money in EB5?" But those are the things you did, and I spent a lot of time in making sure that these projects that these babies we had before the recession, were going to end up to be okay, and they were. And they all got open. Obviously, SLS South Beach opened October 2012, and it was the first hotel to open post-recession here in Miami, and it was like the model Bazaar, Katsuya, High Beach, 140 rooms, small little property right across from Delano.
I've stayed and eaten at all these properties.
And it was an LA operator opening in Miami, which was the risk.
Yeah.
And it was lightning in a bottle, that one. That one did really, really well. Learned how to develop outside of California. That was another one. We built it. Not easy to do. We had a budget. That we didn't have these unlimited budgets before the recession. Like after the recession, you had to execute at a cost per key. We did. And that was kind of it. In Vegas, we opened August 2014.
How is Vegas? Because a lot of people say Vegas is much different than everywhere else. How? In what ways? What did you learn? What was that process?
In every way. Yeah. In every way. I decided in 2013 that I had to move there to either we're going to get financing, deal with the general contractors, and will this thing through. Because our equity partner at that time didn't have a lot of cash. It was a big private equity group. Everyone dealt with the same thing everybody was dealing with. So you didn't have a lot of cash. So we had to find alternative ways in which we can raise the capital. So we went and got a $300 million bond from JP Morgan, and we raised, we primed up our EB5, and we got it to about $1.1 billion, $1.2 billion of new capital to finish that property. So that was a big chunk of my mental energy. At that time, SLS Beverly Hills and SLS South Beach were on fire. I should have just focused just on those. We would have 20 more hotels. But I really wanted to see that through, and I did. We opened that up and sold it 2015 and focused more. But to your point, Vegas, one thing you do realize, first of all, the premise there was the biggest feeder market of Las Vegas is Southern California. So if you control Southern California, you have that. And we were also doing F&B deals in Vegas for MGM. They'd asked us, like at the Bellagio, and they asked us to put some of our brands in there, which we did, and they were doing exceptionally well. Really well. You realize quickly that you can't be a CEO of a global hotel company and CEO of a casino. It takes 4 years for you to open a hotel until you become profitable and start making money. Cosmo showed that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Found Blue is showing that.
They're showing that now.
Resorts World, is showing that. Resorts were a little different. But so that's the one thing we realized. But my goal was to get it open. I mean, we opened up 1,600 rooms, 32 F&B outlets, 70,000.
32 F&B outlets.
All our brands, everything in that building except the retail was ours. SP.
What's your work schedule like? Are you 5 days a week, 6 days, 24/7? I'm sure, you're on the phone a lot, you're traveling.
Yeah, I travel a lot less, believe it or not. I mean, after COVID, when I sold the company, one of the reasons I sold it, I was 44, was I wanted to travel a lot less. I had young kids, I had one on the way, and I knew if I didn't sell it at that time, now mind you, I didn't know COVID was gonna happen after I sold it, but I was on the road. We had 9 offices around the world. We had 12,500 employees.
This is one of the best sales of all time. The multiple that you hit was just absolutely incredible. Timing was right. So by the way, Sam sold 50% of the business to Accor originally, and then the second 50%, 2019, 2020. What were the numbers like in that deal? And oftentimes there's earnouts. How did you structure your deal?
So this was just a cash deal. It was 32 times valuation for the business, forward valuation.
32 times forward valuation.
Correct.
So projections multiplied by 32x. This is that's like an AI multiple.
Well, listen, I think to me, a strategic partner that Accor had been, and their amazing CEO, Sebastian Bazan, and his vision, I think he got a good deal, right? And he probably thinks I got a good deal, But end of the day, it's not necessary. That's why strategics are so interesting, and those are really the kind of partnerships we only focus on now. Is that it's not? They don't really care about the multiples. I mean, they care a little bit, but what they care about is what they can do with it.
Yeah, their growth
And how important it is in their ecosystem.
They can plug it in.
It was such an amazing learning for me, whether it was Accor, or Hyatt, or Hilton, or Starwood, or at that time. When you learn, which is kind of what our new businesses are today. If you can build a platform that can solve a need for a partner like an Accor. Now we have Wyndham, for example, or in our lifestyle business, or our food business like Nestle, or in our full service F&B business like every major hotel company right now. We have 4 platforms today. If you can solve a problem and you can also address the innovation or the lack of innovation these big companies have, and the self-conscious conversations that we know they have at their board meetings, demographical change, right? How consumer behavior is changing. Where's the luxury customer really going? Where's the millennial and Gen Z and Hispanic customer going? If you can create IP that solves that problem at scale, then you're really going to create a massive amount of value. And so 2019, I had done all that I could do in the lifestyle space at that time. In luxury lifestyle, we were by far the biggest in the world. We were 3x anybody else. We had sold $4.5 billion of branded residential in lifestyle globally. A lot of them here in Florida with Related.
You did 17 deals with Related.
Yeah, George Perez was another game changer mentor of mine. We did 17 towers with him around Miami and the Caribbean and Latin America. It was an exclusive partnership for 7 years. And he was another game changer for me. So I've been lucky enough and blessed that I've had these people come across my life, and I've been able to build relationships with them, and they've been insurmountable to me, kind of, growing and helping them. Right? I mean, they needed this category. In the case of Related Florida, and we built one SL. I mean, I remember the SLS we did not too far from where we're sitting. Was Brickell at that time in 2013, 14 was. Nobody even knew what. You couldn't find it on a map. Unless you're like a local guy.
Brickell,
So when I opened SLS South Beach, it did so well that he asked me, "Hey, you want to do a hotel with me in Brickell?" And I said, "Where's Brickell?" So we went and saw the site, and it was not the best site. There wasn't a lot going on.
That's because right now it's Main and Main, like it's on the corner. You would pick that location.
Right? Now you would.
Yeah.
Right? No. And the Cipriani's going next door. Tallest building in South Florida. Anyway, with Camilo. But it was the ambition there. I said, George, but I want to brand the tower. I don't want to just do the hotel. And he didn't want that. He says, no, I'll do it unbranded, but let's do the hotel together. I convinced them to do the residential SLS, the whole thing. And that was a game changer. And it was a game changer because we sold out 450 units in 3 months. He'll tell you it was the fastest sale in Related's history.
Right.
For this kind of, young brand, And
so Sam Nazarian was doing branded residential before Dubai was doing branded residential, really before it took off in Miami.
Well, lifestyle branded residential,
lifestyle.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, branded residential and luxury was common.
Yeah.
But what we proved there was the buyers for SLS didn't need all these amenities, which cost the developer a lot of money, which is very important for George.
Right.
And also, we took the amenities and we combined them. So we said, you don't have to have a residential, gym and a hotel gym. People who live here want to be around action. So let's just combine those two worlds. Let's have the confidence of combining those worlds. There's a lot of things that and also our residential buyers, and this is the genius of George Perez, our residential buyers, he wasn't selling just the building. He was selling SBE.
Yeah.
So when he went to his marketing suites and he went into the things that he does and everyone does, the building just happened to be a part of the story.
A part of the ecosystem that SBE brought to the table.
Exactly. And he marketed that and he taught me that. And he goes, Sam, we're not just selling a beautiful building, in Brickell. We're selling you. We're selling your company. We're selling access. We're selling, the nightclubs, the restaurants, the events, the concerts. We were in arenas. We were the first guy to put a nightclub ever in an arena in 2010 at Staples Center.
That's right.
No one had ever done it before.
Yep.
I joke with all these guys, with Grubman and all these guys, they get all excited about doing nightclubs and arenas and stadiums.
You're like, been there, done that. It wasn't first.
I joke with Noah and Noah Teppenberg. I'm like, they did it at, in MSG. I'm like, we started this thing, a long time ago, because it was just the thinking of elevating our customer, from a hotel and residential perspective, and our corporate accounts to know that SBE is the innovation leader in a multi-vertical solution, and that was very exhausting to do. We were talking earlier. If I just stayed an F&B guy, it would have been great, right? I mean, if I remember having conversations with people a lot smarter than me saying, listen, forget about all this F&B shit. Just stick to the hotels. I'm like, well, how do you think the hotels why do you think they become unique? It's because we understand the food and beverage and we integrate that.
Yeah.
And so, it was a much slower ramp up because you had to do all these things and you had to focus on all these languages, right, at scale and create IP and own the IP. And, that's one thing we own all of our IP. But then it turned out to be the right side of history because then we got through M&A and organic growth, we got to the scale that we did, and our revenue per hotel, we wouldn't just get revenues like a traditional hotel just on the rooms and banquets and catering. We got revenue of everything.
Right.
It was all ours.
Right.
And it became very sticky. Contracts became very sticky in a positive way for us, and our owners had to deal with one group. We had no distribution. We didn't have a channel. We didn't partner with any of the big hotel companies. We're truly independent, which was also interesting because we're opening in Seoul, Korea, or we're opening in in Hong Kong. We opened multiple hotels in the Middle East. We opened hotels in the Caribbean and Latin America. So how does a company like SBE create this distribution system on our own?
Yeah,
which we did, obviously.
You did it on F&B and you did it on the hotel side.
Yeah.
And on now you're doing it on the real estate side as well. And you always had a real estate component in there.
Yeah. So when I sold the company in 2019, I realized I was 44, as I said, and I was not excited.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
When I sold it, obviously I was excited because then I get to focus on things that I knew was my next chapter. It's like I knew that I wanted to be. I had changed.
Yeah.
Right. I was 44. I was not 26 when I started SBE, and I knew that if I didn't sell then I would have to open up these other 55 hotels that were coming online the next 24 months, and that was going to take a huge chunk of my time. And I knew I was going to sell the company eventually to Accor, so it wasn't an if, it was a when. And so I
How did your life change, if at all, when the deal closed, the wire hits?
So the deal closed, the wire hit in November of 2020. But I knew it was happening before. It was timing issues between COVID and some stuff.
Was there uncertainty because COVID happened, or was it the contracts locked in? And
no, it was a done deal. We had a deal confirmed on the other. And by the way, they wanted it to close faster than anybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they needed this category.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of other stuff they wanted to add to my hotels were the biggest part of the portfolio. So, you know, it wasn't a question of if, it was a question of just when was that final board meeting for them to wire the cash. But, you know, it's funny, I was talking about this yesterday actually with a friend of mine. You know, you go from not just relevancy, but you go from thousands of employees, but really a top 25 of your corporate team. Now, I kept all my F&B business. So I went from 12,500 employees to 3,000 employees. So it wasn't like I sold everything.
Yeah.
And I'd already started a company in food tech and consumer, which was taking a lot of my time, and we raised $100 million for that business. So
C3?
it wasn't C3,
C3, yeah.
exactly, which is now just doing amazing. But so there was that side of the business, that was keeping me busy. You know, all of a sudden, you know, we raised $100 million from big public company venture guys and institutions. So it wasn't like I was bored.
Right.
And we just moved to Miami officially with my wife and our kids. So in a new community in Coral Gables and our office in Coconut Grove. But it was a complete, it was very, I'd say, interesting how you go from getting on your plane, flying, boom, 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 you know, like that stopped, which was by design, what I wanted, right? And then I had time to think. And it was almost like I could do whatever I wanted to do now. I wasn't beholden to the company, to our debt.
It's an 18-year sprint.
Yeah.
You know, like F&B, nightlife, everything.
And you know,
casinos.
You take kind of the blinders off.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most healthy things that went through. Now, were there days that I'm sitting in the office by myself, you know, with a small team, or you know, I remember in a construction office as I'm building my corporate office now. You know, the small little construction office while my office is being built, and I'm taking out the guard. I mean, it was completely crazy, and I think healthy.
Yeah, healthy adjustment.
Because it allowed me to start thinking about what I want to do next, and really put the foundations of what we're doing now.
Yeah.
In a much different way, in a much different category, and then you know you bite your tongue. You know, I mean, then Miami just took off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit, I had 12 hotels in this market.
Yeah.
You know, and Miami became now the darling of the country. You know, I had hotels in Dubai. I had a 76-story SLS in Dubai, and all of a sudden Dubai now becomes, you know, I had a beautiful hotel, 300 rooms in Qatar. All of a sudden, now, so the Middle East just becomes relevancy, and you know, we had hotels in Asia, we had hotels all over, and all of a sudden, you know, did I do the right thing? Did I not do the right thing? Things like that. But I knew down deep that I'd done the right thing, and now it's undeniable that I did the right thing.
And you're married. You have 2 kids.
3 kids.
3 kids.
Yeah, 2 girls and a son. They're all under 10. They were much younger then. Obviously, my son wasn't born then. And you know, I was not passionate about opening up more lifestyle hotels at that time. You know, I mean, my life was just around, you know, hitting my 9 offices, opening hotels, dealing with the problems of, you know, legacy hotels, or you know, not problems, but everyone, you know, needed attention. Dealing with our corporate regional offices, dealing with investors, dealing with hotel owners, you know, and we had an office in Paris and an office in London. And I remember, you know, one part is like, shit, man, we're the guy. We're like the hotel guys now. We're the biggest in the world. Who would have thought? Everyone counted us out. Yeah. They were signing, you know, in 2019, we opened 9 hotels, which for us was a big deal. Our closest competitor had 9 hotels. And we're opening, right? Yeah. 9 hotels a year around the world. So that was good, but it wasn't fulfilling enough. And the brand, I took SLS to where the most it could be taken to as far as luxury. Right?
Wealth, business success, sports, loves speed.
Yeah.
Loves speed. How do you think, what do you think about the way that Sam operates your businesses that allowed you to open up so much faster? We're going to talk about the estate. We're going to talk about HQ. You guys are signing deals that will be opening. Yeah. How do you move with such speed and get things done so fast? How are you so productive?
Well, I wouldn't say it's so fast because, you know, I sold the company in 2019, and here we are in 2026. Yeah. So a lot of it was around the foundation, the right strategy, the right business plan, the right strategic partners. You know, spending a lot of time without burning a lot of cash in building all the brand standards, the positioning, the ecosystem. And both our hotel companies today, they're separate cap tables. I own one 100% or 90%, 98%, one I own 75%. No debt.
Which one is which?
No, the estate I own 75%, and
with Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins and Mark, and
Yep.
we have, you know, we've raised about $40 million of high net worth family office, strategic. Everyone's strategic. Everyone was invited to invest.
Yeah.
and we're very blessed that the people that did really bring their perspective.
How many estates do you have signed up now?
We have 14 estates signed up.
What's the mission?
So the estate is a luxury hotel company.
Yeah.
It's a luxury hotel company of the future. Very similar to what I did before with SLS. But in 2020, what does luxury mean, right, to me? I built it for myself, just like I built SLS for myself. Yeah. And in 2020, I was the most unhealthy I'd ever been. No visibility into my health, no data, no dashboards. I couldn't find a brand that really was embracing me as a consumer and also as a residential owner. Now there were some great brands, mind you, but none that like that.
Right.
Four Seasons, Amon, Rosewood, One and Only, but none of them were really differentiated enough for me to say that's going to be my place I want to go. Discovery Land, who's actually one of our investors, Mike Meldman, they were building some great product, but not a hotel company. And there wasn't consistency at every one of their properties. I mean, they're all different projects and master plans around the world. So to me, when I said to myself, okay, if I want to build a luxury hotel residential business, if I want to compete with Amman and Rosewood and Auberge and One and Only, what's going to make me unique? And food and beverage was 100% going to be one of them, and I had that, so that was easy. I just had to build some more IP, bring some more chefs, Michelin chefs, which I did, and open restaurants with them. And then now, in the meantime, and then it was, okay, what is going to make me different? Then I realized it's about luxury is longevity. So how can I build something that is so undeniable?
Luxury is longevity. Yeah. And just like health is wealth. Luxury is longevity.
Yeah. And so how can I build this ecosystem that I would want? How can I build diagnostics? How can I build preventative medicine? How can I build telehealth networks? How can I build it one foundation leg that I can make an impact on my life and measure it for the next decade?
Right.
So that was one piece. The second piece was how can I integrate and operate all the services outside of diagnostic and medical in my resorts. And I read a book in 2022 called Life Force by Tony Robbins. And we had looked at acquiring some of these boutique, all-inclusive hotel companies in Europe. I went and interviewed back then, all the Lanzarote, Shaw, Clinique La Paris, Chanel, all these guys. I went there myself, and I said, and I quickly realized there wasn't really anything to buy.
Right.
So I read a book, and I knew enough. And back to your point, what was I doing? I was sitting there writing out the business plans by hand.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there saying, "This is what I need to do." And then just at night, I was on YouTube, and I was watching shows like yours, like equivalent guys that are interviewing guys and understanding curiosity around peptides and human performance and this and that. And just I was a student. I literally was like I was back in school.
Yeah.
But I was teaching myself.
Yeah.
And when I read Fountain Light, when I read A Life Force by Tony Robbins, I listened to it. I listened to like 7 or 8 books a month. When I listened to this thing, I listened to it. I didn't sleep. I remember like 1 hour of sleep. I just couldn't go to sleep because everything he was saying is exactly what I had realized through 2 years of my own this journey. This is what I want it to be. This is the playbook.
Yeah.
And nobody better on earth.
Than Tony.
So I found somebody who knew him, and I called that person, AJ Gupta, who's now our partner and just a goat in financial world. And I told him what I wanted to do. He got Tony on the phone, not right away, but pretty quickly. And then we had a 2-hour FaceTime or Zoom with Tony. And it was just like, boom.
Yeah.
He got it.
It clicked, yeah.
And, he's just, he sees things in the fourth dimension, unlike most people. He understands your body language. I mean, now I know because he's one of my closest friends. And I understand kind of how he looks at people and how he helps them. Like when people stand up and he's seeing you.
Yeah, he is the GOAT. Yes.
But he's got the reach and he's got the credibility, and that's what I needed. And he interviewed the top 100 Nobel laureates in health, in health, and he's for 40 years been doing things that everyone thought he was crazy, as far as functional medicine, and as far as focusing on your brain and kind of what you focus on is what you do, and these are all things that now have become at least in many cases they've been embraced by traditional healthcare. But back then, he was the one, on top of the roofs of these buildings screaming it, and he got 100 million person network now of people who.
What are the board meetings like of the estate, the partner meetings, the decisions, how often are you guys talking? And then how many estates have you signed up in what locations?
So, initially on the brand side, one good thing about Tony and AJ, who's his partner, who's our partner, and Mark Anthony, who we brought in as a partner. Mark Anthony is my only partner in all 4 of our verticals. He's our SP partner, and he's another GOAT and just another huge asset for me personally in our brands and in our real estate. You know, he was also learning the hotel business. You know,
wow.
Tony and Mark. You know, and Richard Atias, another GOAT that we brought into the estate, was one of the biggest financial guys in the world in conferences. And he does FII Miami and you know, those guys.
Yeah.
So, you know, the conversations today aren't traditional in the sense, you know, of board meetings and P&Ls and things like that. We do all that, but it's more about the deals we should do, the deals that we're thinking about doing. The Tony's constantly bringing more content into our channel, if you will, as far as functional medicine, relationships, people. And what we're doing now with Tony is, you know, again, one of the things we talked about as a real estate luxury brand, you're a real estate company, right? Yeah. You have to sell real estate. Yeah. And most of these residential hotel brands today, or luxury hotel brands today, just give you their name, right? They don't have a channel to sell. You don't go on the Marriott channel to sell real estate. You may get introduced to a location or a brand, but they're not selling it for you. So that's the other part that we focus on is if we want to grow a business and a brand without a proof of concept, we have to make it undeniable for a developer.
Right.
And Tony obviously has one of the best channels in the world.
And
putting real estate into that, he'd never done.
Yeah.
So that's what we spend a lot of time. The ways in which we can go to his many global conferences and encourage people who are interested in living a better life to buy at the estate globally. So we've signed up thousands of people.
That's incredible.
From that perspective. So that's another part that we focus on in our conferences, and just telling him what I'm going through. He's, sharing with him some of the opportunities that we see. He's very detailed. He looks at every him and Mark, both of them. They look at everything we send him.
Yeah.
Branding, elements, fonts, stories, and things like that. And it's just been an amazing partnership. And our 14 deals are projects in Saudi Arabia. I mean, we're talking projects like mega resorts.
Yeah.
Projects. We have 5 projects in the Caribbean. We have projects in countries like El Salvador. We have projects in Puerto Rico. We have projects in Dominican Republic. We have projects. We have 5 residential projects in the U.S. 4 of them will be announced this year. We have projects in Europe. We have a private island in the English Channel. We have projects in Southern California. We have projects in Mexico. We have projects, and these are all signed deals.
Yeah.
So it's about $1.8 billion of residential sales, just full value residential. And then we have about $2.5 billion of total project costs that are coming out of the ground. We also have diagnostic centers. So unlike our wellness competitor Landscape, we partnered with a company called Fountain Life, because the whole premise was, how can I change Jay's life 365? How can I change your life, your wife's life, your employee's life? Yep. So we partnered with the #1 diagnostic and preventative medicine platform here in the U.S. called Fountain Life. We did an exclusive partnership with them. They had 4 of the best longevity centers in the U.S., not just Pernuva or scans, everything. We do it all. So we partnered with them. We did a joint venture. We're growing the 4. We opened our 5th last month in Houston. We're opening L.A. We're opening Atlanta. So we're going to have about 20 of those centers around core urban markets. We're opening Miami here in the beginning.
What are some of the offerings, the services in Fountain Life? I've had Kevin Peak, co-founder of Next Health, on. I've had a Prenuvo scan myself. Fountain Life, you go, what are they looking at? How is it different? And I'm sure there's many things that you guys are evaluating.
So what Fountain Life's philosophy is led by a founder, Dr. Bill Kapp, who was a surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, and then started running hospitals. And he just said, enough of this. Insurance companies forcing me to do surgeries. There's got to be a better way to reverse rather than just operate. That was his philosophy. He's an unbelievable guy and a great vision. So he partnered with Tony Robbins, this guy Peter Diamandis, and put together an amazing cap table. Their philosophy is very simple. We do everything at once. MRI, CT, heart and lung, DEXA, blood, skin, everything, 5 hours once a year. Come to our clinics, most VIP, but it's not part of the story, it's everything.
Okay.
By doing that, then we understand and have a dashboard that is one of the most compelling dashboards on where your health is. The second part of that is then putting a team of 4 people, a chief medical person that's trained in functional medicine, not traditional medicine, but also functional medicine, 2 care coordinators and a VIP coordinator in a tech stack that for the next year we work on reversing and optimizing everything we just found.
Wow.
And the problem with Pernuva and some of those other guys is they go, here you go, Jay.
Yeah.
Good luck.
That's right.
The partner with some of these other guys is they stop in diagnostics and imaging, right? I mean, what we do at Fountain Life is we do it all. And we do it for a third of the cost of, some of these concierge doctors. The thing that I think is important is you have to have brick and mortar. If you want to change somebody's life, you have to have the brick and mortar of encouraging people to come get tested.
That's right.
Now, blood is getting, we work with, once you did get tested once a year, then we start sending stuff to you. But our tech stack, if you go to Fountain Life, you'll see it on the App Store. It's everything that encourages me as an individual to understand where my health is and ask direct questions using my actual health records as the basis of, hey, I'm really thinking about doing this. Is this something that's good for me? And the AI will tell you because of it has all your data. And every time I get a new blood test, every time I do anything new, it instantly loads in. So it's learning about my actual medical records, my scans, my theoretical age. Everything is now in my fingertips on my phone right here.
It's never all been in one place. You had to go to the heart doctor. You had to go to the
you had to go to radiologist. You had to go here, but also, I mean, unless you wanted to go to like Mayo.
Yeah.
Or you can go to like one of these like executive, university programs. The problem is that those guys don't understand functional medicine.
Yeah.
We have our own peptide compounding. We have stem cell. We do therapeutic plasma. We do everything under one roof. So it's kind of our philosophy. If you're going to do this, back to the point of if you're going to take the island, you got to burn the boats, right? So that's what the last 5 years have been. So when we sit across a developer like you and say, we think that this can be helpful. Then we start thinking about how to design the amenities that are both either hybrid, public, private. How do we bring in? We have the top 25 partners in the world of all the biohacking hardware that are at the table with us designing at the estate.
This is where people want to live.
Yeah.
Everything that you're saying now, this is where wealthy people want to live.
All people, I mean, wealthy people can afford it right now.
Yeah.
And that's where kind of HQ comes in, right? As our secondary brand, which is a completely different philosophy. But to me, when I wake up every morning, we have an amazing team at the estate, and we have people that really look at this as an entrepreneurial way in which you can change people's lives.
Yeah.
And also, meet the customer where they are. I mean, to our resorts, for example, we have Michelin restaurants, we have alcohol. You can't go somewhere and just lose weight and come back and think it's going to change your life.
Right.
So it's that whole ecosystem. And same thing, it's exactly the same playbook and lifestyle.
Yeah.
I had multiple brands. I had all the F&B. I had standalone. I was in arenas. I was in casinos. That was what ended up winning the day. This is the same way. And that's why we believe we're going to be the most important luxury hotel company, not just wellness hotel company, but luxury hotel company, because the things that we're changing the bathrooms. We're working with the biggest plumbing manufacturer in the world. We can't mention it yet because we haven't announced it. We're looking at rituals on where you start the day, where you end your day. We're looking at the bedroom of the future. We're looking at all the kind of brand DNA that goes into what keeps negativity outside of where you sleep from a lot of our technical and architectural brand standards. We're looking at therapeutics at the highest level that can be executed in your room every night, because of the amenity package we have in our residential communities.
I see how you sold it 32 times. You sold me. Everyone now is going to look up the estate and Fountain Life.
Yeah.
I'd love to do a deal. Hopefully we can find a property that fits your standards and the estate.
No, but I encourage you, listen, I tell this story, I don't know if so I took my wife, before we did the deal with Fountain Life, I took my wife and myself to Fountain Life Orlando, which is the flagship now. We're building one in LA that's going to be the flagship, but that one's the flagship in Lake Nona. Beautiful, and that's where their offices are. So we went in there, not knowing, like shit, you're a little anxious.
Yeah.
I'm sure you went
nervous.
through.
Yeah.
With Pernuva, you probably had the same exact.
I was very nervous going into the scanner.
The MRI machine. So we went there. My wife, 39 years old at the time, healthy, perceived healthy. I was not healthy, but I'm much healthier now than I was then. I was about 50 pounds heavier. But again, weight is not the really gauge of health. Anyway, we did the test. 5 hours. Every test you can imagine, with beautiful VIP. We had our own suite. They come and take you, and exactly to make it less anxious, right? So we did that, and it was a Friday. We went from there. We flew to Branson's Island in the Caribbean. We had a meeting with him and some people, and then landed Monday in Opa-locka, and we get a text from the chief medical officer of that clinic, and he's like, "Can you please call me?" I'm like, that's not a good sign, because they tell you they'll call you in 2 weeks. So anyway, they found out through my full body scan, in that case, that I had an aneurysm in my brain.
Wow.
and it was a 7.5 millimeter aneurysm. And he goes, listen, you don't have to do anything right now. We don't have to rush to a hospital, but we got to figure this thing out. A month later, from the time I did the test, I had a 7-hour surgery to remove the aneurysm, a brain surgery. And it was, saved my life. It was going to rupture. I had no idea I had it.
Wow.
My wife, and I found other stuff that now I've optimized and I'm getting much better at. And my wife found all this, and I also had it too, all this carcinogenic in my blood. I had mold in my blood. She had mold in her blood. She had all these sinus infections. She couldn't understand why. It's not just the blood test you do, it's the layering of the blood test that you do, right? But it's with an MRI, it's with a CT, it's with heart, it's with lung. All this at one time, that's your dashboard on your health. Now, what you do with it is, we help you with that if you want. If not, we work with your doctors. We work, in kind of that to me is the future of healthcare, right?
Yeah.
Because it saved my life. But more importantly, I think that is a foundation of the credibility. When you become a residential buyer of the estate, you get instant access. And that's Fountain Life, and that's our partner in the US.
Yeah.
We have the same partner in the UK for the estate. We have the same partner in Switzerland. So anywhere you go around the world, you're part of this aggregation of the best places, and we also do med spa, we do therapeutics, we do everything, right? And we do that either on property or off. So that's what I think the future is of a luxury hotel company. And we're not the only ones thinking that way, but I think we're by far ahead of the game when it comes to that, yeah.
This could actually save your life.
It can change your life for sure.
Change your life for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about HQ.
Yeah.
Very exciting brand.
Yeah.
You mentioned you own 98% of it. You've launched so many brands that have been ultra successful.
Yeah.
How did it come about? What is HQ's mission?
So the mission of HQ is very similar to kind of how we look at the world. I had a 3-year non-compete. You can imagine they cut a lot big checks, so they wanted me to not be in the business for a while, which actually helped on my luxury side. But I thought to myself, if I come back into lifestyle, it's almost like, and you're like, you leave at the top, right? Yeah. If I come back, you're gonna have to have a big idea.
Yeah,
you can't just
like
do
Jordan, leaving, coming back.
Well, I don't know about Jordan's the GOAT, but if I came back, I had to come back with a real powerful idea. And the idea for me wasn't just doing another luxury lifestyle hotel brand. I said, okay, what's missing? And when you're out of the game for 3 years, you can see what's missing. What I saw is everybody went into luxury lifestyle, and all the brands, started to push themselves up. And then all the luxury brands try to bring more lifestyle, right? So that luxury lifestyle space became super crowded. And they all got acquired. All the big lifestyle companies in the 3 years got acquired. Dream, Standard, My Brand. I mean, they all got acquired. So right now, there really aren't that many independent lifestyle companies left. You have to deal with the big guys, which is also not the hotbed of innovation, dealing with public companies doing a lifestyle hotel. So I came back, and I was, at the same desk, and I said, okay, if I do it, I'm going to focus on 2 things. I'm going to focus on next gen customer, Hispanic, Gen Z. How do I do that? Food and beverage, partners, accountability, just like we did in luxury and longevity. Then the second part is I'm going to focus on the thousands of hotels that I couldn't do in my these hotels that are great hotels, maybe have 60 rooms, maybe have 600. They need distribution, they need food and beverage, they need wellness, they need a brand, they need management. And we're going to be very pragmatic with owners. In our world, as you know, you deal with a brand. It's like, you're like, wait a minute, this is my hotel. Oh, yeah. I'm putting up all the money. And you're probably going through it real time. And you're like, it's my hotel, man. Yeah. Said, but it's my brand, Yeah. So I think the future of hospitality in that category is the flexibility that a brand will give an owner. Yeah. Because right now, the only thing that brands can give you is, key money for a contract, right? Yeah. And then they own the hotel. So that was the premise. So HQ so when I designed it, again, I wrote it out, 27-page business plan, gave it to my guys in LA. This is before there was Claude, right? So, and I said, okay, who's going to be my partner? What I didn't want to do is I didn't want to rebuild distribution, revenue management, global sale. I didn't want to do that again. Right. So I said, I need a partner. And I just want distribution, but I want also exclusivity from a global partner. So I went to Hilton, Chris Nassetta, I went to Ellie at IHG, I went and met with all these guys. I met with Jeff Pilati at Wyndham Hotels. And I told them all, hey, I'm going to launch a new platform. This is the premise, exactly what I told you. There's going to have a wellness component as well, because now we're very powerful in that world, and we understand it for that category of accessible wellness. But this is what I need. I need exclusivity from hotel company to me.
Yep.
I'll give you exclusivity. I don't want any money. I just want exclusivity and distribution. And all of them were like thinking about it, but Wyndham said, let's go.
They jumped at it. Yeah.
And we got a 10-year deal. So we're Wyndham's lifestyle brand for the next 8 years. And a massive amount of investment that came into now how HQ is going to redefine a lot of their. We're not converting like La Quinta into an HQ, but 250 sales guys around the world are selling our brand. It's a win-win for them. It gets on the Wyndham distribution channel. They don't have any lifestyle. They don't have any kind of Wyndham brand is their highest end, which is some great hotels. They're the largest hotel network in the world. So it was a solution for a big company.
Yep.
It was a category that I think right now is, and all the CEOs agreed, 4-star premium is underserved. It's a conversion brand at its core, and there's a residential component and integrated solutions, that one-stop shop. And even our Wyndham contract is part of our contract. Owners don't even have to deal with that secondary contract with a distribution agreement and a management agreement. So,
where are you opening them?
So we opened in Antigua last year, beautiful resort.
Amazing.
We opened in New Orleans. We're opening in Palm Springs next week. We're opening in DC in November. We're opening in
This is light speed.
St. Lucia. We just announced a big project in St. Lucia, residential and hotel. That opens in November. Also, we're going to have a busy, and we have a hotel in Hollywood in LA. Next year, we'll open 13. The goal is to get to 100.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing there. But our relationship with owners are, owners are like, I can actually call the guy who's a decision maker now.
Yeah.
I can't call, Mark Capalazian at Hyatt, if I want a dream hotel, I mean, you could, but Mark would actually probably call you back. He's a good guy. But that's the pragmatic part of the business. We launched our HQ residential project here, as you mentioned, with Black Salmon. We brought Mark Anthony, who's our partner at HQ. We brought his wife now, who's unbelievable, Nadia, to be the face of the brand, and she's like the perfect customer. These are units that are approachable. Yeah. We've stacked it up. Sophia Vergara's a partner in our food business. We have an amazing brand with her. She's doing together we're doing the food and beverage on the ground floor. We brought in Kane Saran, who's the CEO of The Well. He designed all the wellness for us. We brought in the agency out of LA, which is, Mauricio Umansky, first project he's doing here in a tower. We brought in, design agency out of Toronto, Architectonica, who everybody, Bernardo.
Yep.
And we brought in Anea, who's the #1 landscape guy in vertical buildings. And it's an approachable $900,000 unit building, right? Which is sorely needed, in that market and that price point. And you get so much value, right?
A lot of value.
So we have our second residential deal that we just announced there in St. Lucia with a hotel. We're starting to do HQ branded multifamily now. We have 2 full tower ground up projects. And it's
exciting.
It's a great business. It's a great business. It's growing very nicely. We're solving problems for a lot of hotel owners. And Wyndham's just been an amazing partner. I mean, this is like they own it. They act like they own it.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's great to give tools to sales guys who haven't had this tool before, this widget to sell. And it's a powerful way for them to really bring that type of deal flow to us from that perspective.
Sam, you've surrounded yourself with GOATs along the way, people that you've mentioned and teamed up with, Tony Robbins, Mark Anthony, over the years, George Perez. What advice do you have for listeners out there who are looking to grow their business and build these long-term relationships? How do you manage this and treat people and really create something special with these ultra successful people?
I think the thing that's worked for me, and I see it too, like obviously now young people, I encourage young people, to come up to me and start talking about their passion. What's important for a GOAT, right, is can you help them stay relevant or help them evolve into something they're interested in?
Yeah.
But then give them a platform that they don't feel like you're going to hurt their brand.
Right.
Because their reputation is important.
2 + 2 = 6 or 7. Yep.
Or even kind of leading them into a path that sometimes they're curious about, but never really thought that they could be into. So, I think that it's more and more difficult today, but easier in some ways because of the amount of data that's out there today. I mean, you could literally start a company on AI.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And be effective.
Yeah.
So it's all about the commitment that you can't just go to a person of like we're talking about and say, hey, what's going on? I'd like to work for you. It's like, no, this is my idea. This is the work. This is the strategy. This is how it can help your business. These are clear goals on how it can help your business. And be prepared for 99 out of 100 of them not to respond to you. I think right now we're a guy like me, and I'm sure a guy like you, you've been turned down so much in life. Right. Especially the last 5 years.
It's the nature of it.
I mean, listen, the last 5 years, everyone's like, I'm launching these new brands and this and that. They're like, like, oh, it's a new brand. You don't have SLS anymore. You don't have this. I'm like, I mean, it fired me up.
Even the goats,
100%,
here,
100%. A lot of guys.
You don't have SLS.
A lot of guys not even returning calls.
Wow.
Bankers not returning calls.
Oh my God.
Advisors like, that guy, he sold his company. Now he's starting something. I mean,
how quickly
a lot of even F&B guys, like friends of mine. It's like all of a sudden they're like, I'm like, I was the largest F&B lifestyle operator in the world. Just so happened I was a hotel company also. And then I'm getting lectured now, by guys like with like 3 locations, like telling me, this is what you should do. I'm like, okay, but you got to have the confidence and the durability of your ego, and bite your tongue, because there's a clear mission. So I need what I need to get out of Jay. Let me just bite my tongue. As an example.
Stay focused.
So I think that this generation doesn't have that.
No, they don't.
They're so fucking sensitive.
So sensitive.
Right? And if somebody comes in and says something wrong or disrespects them or says something, it's like, listen, if you have a mission, it's not going to be easy, right?
And to stick with it and stay dedicated and focus on one thing.
But bounce, and if it doesn't work, go to the next guy.
But
you have to know who the next guy is.
Right.
And you have to know what's going to make that next guy actually want to engage. And that's the part, right? I mean, obviously, I grew up admiring George. You use George as George Perez. I mean, he is the GOAT.
He's the GOAT.
He is Miami.
Him,
and for the most part. I had to, I invited him on a tour of SLS South Beach before it opened. I paid homage. I understood his business. This is before all this AI and shit. So I was like, I invited him to dinners. There wasn't an ask.
This was the personal touch, guys. This is the personal touch before just Instagram, AI.
There wasn't an ask when I met with him, right? It was just, hey,
that's important.
Can I get a coffee with you? Hey, let me show you what we're doing. This is what we're thinking. And there's a lot of those goats that I've ended up being around that appreciated that, and they let them come back to you.
No pressure.
Let them come back to you with an idea, which he did. Let's do SLS Brickle together.
Right.
And it's like after a couple months of not hearing from him, so he had that much vision and that much understanding of what it needs to be. But I think the biggest thing I would say today, and I had to experience this the last 5 years, is you have to be resilient in your belief, but you also have to have a really solid game plan and a business plan. You can't just say, I'm going to be, I could have gotten credibility, say I'm building the estate and we have some wellness stuff. I had enough credibility. I'd get some, we'd build a good business. But that wasn't the game plan. My game plan was I have to build something that's going to disrupt. And to do that, you have to just be a student, understand how, I know more of the pain points now of doctors on how they have to grow their business than I ever did. I understand so how can I help them? How can I help them? How can they send me business? How can they sell residences? How can I can utilize them to my residential buyers when they go into a city, something happens, because they just call their estate concierge, like, go see. Like the other day, I cracked my tooth at dinner. I'm calling my guys, and I have the #1 dentist in New York, and it's all VIP. That's value.
That is value. That's a lot of value.
That's value, and everything's taken care of, and everything's looked after, and you feel good, all because of owning at the estate residence. That's value. Saving, God forbid, if something happens, you want to pick up the phone and say, okay, I need access to this. That's value. That's perceived value. It's like the American Express Centurion card. What do you really use it for? But it's the perceived value that it brings, and that branding that American Express does so well. Company we admire, that's what I think. That's what I think is really going to make the difference. But also, I think brands today, they're very linear in their approach. How many contracts can I get? How much can I convince this developer to spend? I don't care if he makes money because I made him so much money on the residential. Those I don't think that's a sustainable business model.
No, it's not.
You have to be a partner to your developers. You cannot be, you can't just be the partner the day you sign the contract.
Right.
You have to be a partner. 5 years later, 7 years later, how is these hotels going to operate? What is CapEx going to look like? And that's where our food and beverage business also, same thing. It's like we're providing food and beverage solutions for these legacy hotels that there's no solution because the brands have all been acquired by the big guys. So we're spending time providing solutions there as well. So that's kind of what keeps us, kind of going. But it's been fun. I mean, it's been fun now talking about the new. I mean, once we start even more announcements, one hotel brings 5, 5 brings 15, 15 brings 45. That's just how it works.
The multiplier.
So, but it's fun, man. I enjoy it.
Let's talk about Miami life. What is Miami doing that other states, other cities aren't doing? Why is there so much momentum here? You're a global entrepreneur, LA roots. LA's going through its own issues. We have mayor elections. We have this, Spencer Pratt out there.
Spencer, my boy from the hills.
Does he win? Does he beat Karen Bass?
He wins. LA is unfortunately in California and a lot of these states like California, it's controlled by the unions.
Yeah.
It's full stop.
Yeah.
So one thing that Trump was able to do in the last election, he got the union to vote for him. Not all of them, but a lot of them. He got young people to come out to vote for him, and that's why he won all these 7 the states, that were the kind of crossover states, and he got this momentum, and he won by a landslide and won the popular vote. So Spencer has to get the unions. Either has to get the non-union vote to over-index to compensate for it, but the unions are going to vote in blocks. And unfortunately in LA, it's become 100% controlled by the unions. City council is all controlled by the unions.
Wow.
Every single city council person is controlled by the unions. And you can tell by the things that they're putting in the process. Sacramento's 100% owned by the unions, controlled by the unions. So New York, same way. Chicago, same way. San Francisco, same way. DC, same way. So hospitality obviously is a big workforce block. So that's why we know it. It's you don't want to do deals in those markets, right? Unless you're non-union. And in many cases, it doesn't make a difference if you're non-union. They put in these work rules that you are union, right? So not that we have anything against the union philosophy. It's just, you're dealing with this kind of component of labor that just doesn't pencil, so you can't hire into it. So I think Miami, Miami was always. Cause I've been coming here since 2004, and I've been through 2 cycles here. What's different now is that everywhere else there isn't a choice. You have to leave. You have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's number one. That obviously helps this. Starts with DeSantis and his instincts during COVID. Suarez. His instincts, the optimism, right? The people here, they want to be free. They want to do deals. They want to innovate. It has its downside. I mean, Miami's not the Miami, that we also, there was that charm and that sexiness. Now it's like very bridge and tunnel-y. Yeah. Right? There aren't those like charming little boutique hotels, and everything is, it's not the same as it was. So there's a downside. But then you have communities popping up like Coconut Grove. Yeah. Like Design District, like, obviously different parts of Bal Harbor. And so the beach is not really the indication of Miami anymore. Right. I mean, I don't know how many times you go to the beach, but I rarely go because I live in Coconut Grove. I mean, I live in Coral Gables and I work in Coconut Grove. So there's a lot more communities popping up, which is good. But I think here, even in a down cycle, the proximity to Europe, to Latin America, that cultural kind of tapestry that's here, which LA also has. I mean, every major city has the tapestry. But here, everyone's celebrating their tapestry. In LA, you're afraid. Yeah. You're afraid to say anything. Yeah. So it's like, you're afraid to say, you're afraid to celebrate yourself because you feel like you're putting someone else down because you're celebrating your culture. You're Korean, I'm American, I'm Persian, you're Korean, somebody's a Cuban. And in Florida, it just seems like people have an ability of celebrating their culture rather than, feeling like they're...
You don't have that pressure. You can come to Florida and be who you are. You don't have to hide it.
You want to be a Republican? You can be here. You want to be a Democrat? You can be here. You want to be an independent? No one's judging you. No one's trying to cancel you. No one's forcing you to get injections for your kids with some scam,
Double
vaccine. There isn't like all this stuff that's happening in different communities. You can pick the school that you want and you can live a certain life. Anyway, it doesn't mean like good or bad. I mean, everyone can have their independence. But it's also, I think, optimism, right? And I think here, the reason why Florida is really one of the few states that you see growth is that people are coming here and they're just seeing why you can really live like this. Yeah. And then they're doubling down, they're moving their companies. And a lot of times I thought post-COVID, everyone's just gonna move back. There's nowhere to move back to.
No, yeah. It was like people thought the yo-yo effect that New Yorkers, they get called back to the office, and people just stayed. And then more and more people.
The offices started moving. You saw Ken Griffin, what he said about, Mamdani and how he's, I mean, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
In New York. I mean, Chicago, crazy. DC, these beautiful cities, beautiful culture, beautiful people, and run by this type of mentality, the socialist mentality who needs to control everything you do. Here, you have leadership that even the new Democratic mayor of Miami.
Yeah.
She's great.
She's common sense.
Common sense.
Great.
She's great.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone thought, Suarez is out. What's going to happen? She's so far been an amazing, pragmatic leader.
At her inauguration speech, getting sworn in, she said, "I want to help people live better."
Yes.
That was her mission. It wasn't one way or the other way. It was just help everyone in Miami live better.
And isn't that really what politicians should be doing?
This is what they should be doing. Sam, this has been incredible. On a personal level, favorite restaurants that you're going out to? You're a restaurant person, so it can be yours. And where are you eating out in Miami?
So right now, obviously, a lot of what we do is like a close proximity to where we live. So we don't come on the beach. I did come. Afghani, my friend, opened Gaia, and Gaia's was an amazing experience. He invited us. We obviously sat with him, so everything was great. But I think Gaia's going to do really, really well. Obviously, Mickey and Casa Tua is always a go-to. I mean, he's an institution. But in the Grove, we have places like Ava that just popped up, or Giuseppe's place, or Carbone Vino. Those are great places that we go to that are close to my office. But we really don't go out that often, believe it or not. We have 3 young kids, and my wife's very busy in her philanthropy. I'm busy in my work. We're on the board of our schools and the healthcare systems and Baptist hospitals and things like that. So we're very busy, from that perspective. But Brickell Designers, I mean, all these places we were talking about earlier. We saw the map outside in your office of, every great brand is coming.
Yeah.
It's a little daunting to see if there is a bubble coming, right? And we're doing a lot of stuff here as well, in South Florida specifically. But I think people ask me what's going to happen with all these units. I go, the stuff that's good is going to sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
The stuff that's not good is going to have more difficult selling.
Right.
And that's just life.
Yeah. That's capitalism.
Yeah. It's just, post-COVID, everything was selling, but, you have to operate well. You have to have a strong mission. You have to have a strong story. You have to have a great, but the thing I'd probably say to you also as a developer, as I see it's you got to sell more than just the 4 walls of the building. That's the premium.
Yeah.
That's what, and that's what I think the brands that do that well, the brands that can export people's imagination to say, I'm buying here because I'm buying as part of this ecosystem. That always sells, even in a downturn.
Sam Nazarian, legend, icon, hospitality, nightlife, real estate. Incredible to have you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Where can people find you and how can they connect with you?
Well, the best thing is on the website, sb.com, and my email is sam@sb. So
Awesome. Sam.
Thank you so much.